No, the Johnny's rather. Oh, dated.
Well, I wrote it on my, it's in my purse though.
You want to go
Mine's
get it?
I can go to my purse. So you guys
Get it.
making me nervous.
Come on, Julie. There's 3 questions.
I'll just
It's not that
look
big
on
a
yours
deal.
like, oh,
No,
okay.
there you go. Oh, thanks. Something's ever changed it. No one makes it front row.
All right, it looks like it's about 7 o'clock, so we're going to get the panel started. Welcome to the Game of Life panel for athletes and what they can be doing in the internship and job search. My name is Mary Sweet, and I'm a career assistant at the Career Resource Center. And thank you all for joining us. Thank you to our panel members for joining us as well. This is going to last approximately an hour until about 8 p.m. And first we're going to start off with our panel members just introducing themselves, taking about 4 or 5 minutes to just talk about their life experiences. And then we're going to ask a few questions. And then after that, we're just going to open it up to the rest of the students for questions and answers from our panel. So we'll get started right here.
Can you hear me in the microphone? So. All right, my name is Nicole Weis. I graduated from St. Ben's in 2003, which seems like a long time ago. I played softball here. I was a biology major and a sociology minor. My senior year is kind of when I figured out exactly what I wanted to do with my life, and I knew I wanted to go into healthcare. So towards the end of my senior year, I applied to radiation therapy school at the University of Minnesota. I graduated there in 2005 as a radiation therapist. Started working at the University of Minnesota Medical Center right out of school. About a year and a half into my job, I was offered a lead therapist position, and we just had one in the department, and so I was very lucky to get that position because it kind of accelerated my career where I wanted it to go. In 2010, I got my master's degree in Health and Human Services Administration, and currently I am a clinic manager for University of Minnesota Physicians in radiation oncology. So I work down on the University of Minnesota campus in the hospital there, and then I also do manage the radiation oncology department at Maple Grove Medical Center as well.
My name is Will Seiler. I graduated from St. John's in 1994, so if you think you feel old, I feel really old. I played football at St. John's, was a biology major, went to the University of Minnesota for pharmacy school after 4 years of St. John's. After pharmacy school, I opened a pharmacy in Albany, Minnesota, which is actually where I grew up. And since then have opened one in Alexandria and Cold Spring as well. My time here at St. John's was wonderful. I had a very successful career here, and it's just great to see, things like this. I've been able to speak on multiple panels throughout my years after graduating, and to see the numbers that show up for these things and the interest that kids show is great. And it's just you guys are very fortunate. It's a very good place.
My name is Julie Murphy, and I graduated in 2002. I was a management major, and I also got my coaching certification. I'm the one panel member up here who was not an athlete at St. Ben's. I tried out for the softball team, and I didn't make it. But I have no hard feelings against any. I got to work with Nicole, actually. Yeah, and I actually managed the softball team for 2 years. I had about every athletic position that you could think of while I was in college. I worked for Marcia Malum in intramurals. I worked for Mike Durbin in sports information. I ran summer sports camps at St. Ben's. I coached in St. Cloud, both high school and junior high. I reffed volleyball. I ran the athletic program for 5th and 6th graders. I worked park and rec, where Nicole used to work as well. I basically found every opportunity to be in sports because I did not have the opportunity to play in college. So I came to college. I wanted to own a truck dealership because I wanted to drive monster trucks when I was done with college. Okay, that's not going to pay the bills if anybody wants to know. But I decided with my management major and my coaching certification that I loved coaching and I loved athletics. And I have a type A personality that really likes to be in charge and be organized. And I thought my love of sports and my love of organization, I'll be an athletic director when I grow up. And I just happened to have the opportunity when I was coaching at St. Cloud Cathedral. I asked to do an internship there, and he said, yes, you can do an internship. I didn't know what an athletic director was, but I thought, oh, that sounds fun. Well, I didn't do my internship there because I was actually offered a position there when I was a junior here at St. Ben's, and I started working there part-time as an activities director when I was a senior here on campus. So I started working at Cathedral. 1999 was my first coaching job there. I know when you guys were like in third grade. And I've been there almost the whole time. I actually left and went to St. John's. I worked in the athletic department for a little bit. And then I went to Sartell and I worked in their community ed department for a little bit. And I finally came back to Cathedral where I'm the assistant athletic director. I tried the grass is greener approach, and the grass was actually the greenest at my original position at Cathedral. I also got my master's degree in the middle of that too, so I have a master's in management.
Good evening, you guys. I'm James Gord. I'm a 2002 graduate of St. John's. When I was here, I was a communication major and a business management minor. I also played rugby at St. John's. And at the time, the rugby team was in a bit of a tough spot. We had gotten into a little bit of trouble way back in 1997. So my team, or my group that started in 98, we did a lot of work with the Senate and kind of team building and working with both campuses to try and get us back on campus, which we did successfully. And when we were here, we hired a coach, and now I think the program is in a much, much better spot even than when I was here. So it's fun to see the club doing well and the school's doing well as well. After graduation, well, first of all, through my career at St. John's, I also had 2 internships. One of them was unpaid. I worked for the West Fargo Chamber of Commerce. Anyone from the Fargo area? Yeah, one. Anyone else? Was there one in the back too? No one wants to take credit for it. Okay, one. Well, welcome. Nice to see you. I worked for the West Fargo Chamber of Commerce on a volunteer basis, trying to get some experience. Having a liberal arts background, I, like many of you and probably most of us on the panel, didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I knew I had to get a bunch of experience. So one of them was with the Chamber of Commerce doing sales and some event planning. My junior year, I had a really cool internship with the Fargo Moorhead Redhawks, which is a professional baseball team. Minor league team. I was doing promotions for them. I got into some sales there as well. And then I was lucky enough to get a job with Target right out of school. So I started as a business analyst. I interviewed on campus at St. John's. Felt really fortunate to get a job. And so I've been at Target for 10 years ever since then. I've held about 7 different positions in merchandising since I've been there. My first job was as a business analyst. And the business analyst role is essentially in charge of inventory management on a pretty small scale. So I was in charge of boys' action figures in toys, which was a pretty cool job to start right out of school in charge of toys. I've held, like I said, a number of different positions since then. Most notably, I was a buyer in merchandising. I was in charge of what was a brand known as Target brand, which became Up and Up. And I was on a team that transitioned that brand from a store brand generic product into something that's a little bit different today. I spent a lot of time learning about diapers because I was in charge of the baby department for Up and Up. At 25 and not with any kids in the house, I didn't know very much about diapers, but I learned a lot. It turns out that they're very complicated and really expensive, and they're not much fun to either be on the retailer side or when you have to use them. Stay away from diapers, you guys, as long as you possibly can. Stay away from diapers. So I was on the Up and Up team for about 1.5 years, and then I was a buyer in music. So I bought CDs for Target. I had country music. I didn't really listen to country music, but I bought the CDs. How many of you guys listen to music, by the way? Okay, how many of you buy CDs? that's more than I thought, but that's like 4 of you. So as you can imagine, being in merchandising and in charge of CD sales, it's a little bit tough. People don't buy music the same way that they used to. So it was a really cool industry to be a part of. I met a lot of famous people, which was really cool. Taylor Swift has hugged me 4 times. I'm sure she's talking about it tonight as well. And so I did the first exclusive deal between Taylor Swift and Target, which brought her music to Target in a unique way, which is a ton of fun. And it was a great job. I learned a lot about negotiation. I was doing record contracts, essentially, some legal work, a lot of pricing and negotiation. So those were my 2 experiences as a merchant. Now I'm back on the inventory planning side, and I have a team of people, and we basically support all of the business analysts with different strategies with regards to inventory management. So planning for big events like back to school, back to college in Q4, things like advertising or end caps, climate-related businesses. So basically I have an internal consulting team now at Target. I've been doing that for about 18 months. And I live in Minneapolis. I'm married, and I have a 2.5-year-old, and my wife went to St. Ben's. So it's fun to be back.
I don't know if I can follow the diaper thing, but my name is Ruppe Nichols. I'm an 03 grad. I played soccer here. I graduated with a degree in biology and a minor in sports medicine. And currently I am the site manager at a sperm bank in St. Paul, Minnesota. I got that as my first job right out of college. I started as a lab technician, and I got promoted to supervisor, and then eventually worked my way up to site manager.
So I'm Jared Smith, a 2011 grad of St. John's. I played hockey here at St. John's. I am a finance, economics double major. Actually have my coaching certificate as well, and in hopes at some point coach a high school hockey team, maybe in St. Cloud. And I'm with Northwestern Mutual. I'm a financial planner at Northwestern Mutual. I've actually been with the company for about 4 years now. Started as an intern at the end of my sophomore year. So actually my freshman and sophomore year, I worked at the Boys and Girls Club, Kid Stop, as assistant manager at Westwood Elementary in St. Cloud. And actually through a class talk, I don't know if any of you met Derek Tam, but he did a class talk in one of our finance classes, and I was attracted to the career opportunity, and I was an intern 2009, 2010, and then I converted full-time right out of college. So been doing this full-time, a financial planner full-time for just a little over a year and a half now, and where I just meet people, clients, help them with financial security planning and all that fun stuff. So.
Okay, so we're going to take some time to ask 3 questions that we thought that were really important that you would like to know. The first question is, how has your student-athlete experience helped you in your career thus far?
Well, I think James actually, when we were over there earlier this evening, he's really dependent on the career you're going in. But for me, it was, my student athletic experience. It was really about school and athletic balance, so or time management balance, if you will. So from 8 to 2, it was school. And then from 3:30 to 7:30, it was hockey, and then from 7:30 to 10:30, it was homework, and then 10:30 to 8 o'clock, it was bedtime, and so it was just like really structured, and I think that's really what helped. It's what I've learned a lot now that I'm in this career. It's more or less work-life balance. So I have a family as well. I'm married. Been married for 3 years, and I have a 6-year-old and a 3-month-old, and so it's really talking about work-life balance now. And I think that playing hockey and raising a child and in school really helped me balance all these different things. So.
I think in terms of my student-athlete experience and how it's helped me in my career, I think it's better able to help me prioritize and figure out what needs the attention at the time. And in particular in biology, the field I'm in, looking for someone who's able to change gears quickly, adapt to situations, which I think is pretty key. And then also athletics at St. Ben's, St. John's has a lot of additional outside things besides playing your sports. For example, SAC and the leadership opportunities that offers you. And then I think recently you guys have started doing like a dance for Special Olympics and things like that. So, I mean, besides the athletic aspect of it, all the skills that you're learning about yourself and how St. Ben's, St. John's kind of tries to bring out and enhance the features that you already have.
So I think the biggest thing about athletics and how it translates into the work world is what it's like being on a team. So today I work with my team's about 20 people. And all of those things that you experience when you're on an athletic team, you experience at work too. So there's people you get along really well with. There's people that you don't like so much, maybe. Hopefully not, but that happens. Any of those interpersonal dynamics that happen on a team happen at work too. And so I think a lot of the experiences that you're getting, it's not necessarily in a game, but it's the things that happen outside of the game. The informal communication, the team building type activities that you do, those are all very relevant for the future. It teaches you how to deal with conflict. It teaches you a little bit about politics over time. Who are the decision makers, who are the leaders, who are the followers, those types of things I think you learn in athletics and they translate to the working world. Also, how do you communicate? It's a critical skill as you look at your future in whatever line of work you go into. That you learn through athletics, I think, as well. So it's not necessarily, again, like how good your jump shot is or if you're a good field goal kicker, but the types of things that happen on a team translate very closely to a team dynamic in work.
Well, because I was an athlete, I have a different experience on what I bring, but all the jobs I taught, I was a 3-sport athlete in high school, and I just showed up for the games and played my sport and went home and talked to my mom and dad about the game. But all the jobs I had taught me that there is a whole lot more that goes on in athletics that I didn't know. Who orders your bus for the game? Who prints the programs off? Who got the national anthem singer lined up? Who cut checks to the officials? Who confirmed what time the game is? Are you sure you're supposed to go to Hamlin, or was Hamlin supposed to come here? Because that's going to happen, and the buses are going to pass each other on 94 someday. There's so much that, also because I was an athlete and because I was a coach, and now that I work in athletics, I've seen all sides of it. I've seen the crazy parents. Okay, I'm sure they're not your parents. I've seen the kids who are never going to be the superstar athlete but come out year after year after year and will ride the bench every single time, but they just love being part of a team. I've seen the superstars that are so humble that you just want to share them with the rest of the world and say, this is what you need to be like when you grow up, a good athlete and very humble about who you are. I've seen every side of athletics, and I think that my jobs during college where I saw the behind the scenes, the making the schedules, the lining up officials, all the detail work that goes into athletics, I think that's what helps me a lot in my job now, because now I take care of all of the stuff that you don't see. You just go and participate. So.
My experience, how football helped me playing at St. John's was really relevant right away to me when our first couple of days of pharmacy school came up, and the guys that went through all the applications came up, and he's like, hey, you're the football guy. I'm like, yeah, I'm the football guy. And he's like, well, all the kids we have are all smart kids going to graduate school. You all have similar grades. He goes, but that was really the thing that got you in here. St. John's was the thing. He goes, but being an athlete and doing this is a rarity. It was in pharmacy school, so it was one of those things that does get you noticed a little more than just we have a great school here, so you're way ahead of a lot of colleges. But it's another one of those things, just being involved in something, and that starts in high school when you're getting into colleges. from colleges getting jobs in graduate schools. Sports do mean a lot, and not just sports, but extracurriculars in general. So that was a great thing for me, hearing that and to be able to tell kids that. John Ghilardi was a wonderful coach, and he's still a great friend, and I sit down and chat with him all the time, and he calls me and has me meet with kids, and if they've got questions about things, so it does a lot. It's nice for me to be able to give back to them and tell these experiences to these kids that are looking to go into graduate schools or sciences and things like that. But sports in general, they do so much. Like these guys said, the teamwork is tremendous. To be able to work with people. If you're going to be successful, and maybe it's a little easier playing for successful teams. We had a wonderful team, and you have 22 great guys and 200 guys on a team. And you have to make that work somehow. And you're going to have leaders on that team, like they said. I was a quarterback. It's a natural leadership position. And, I've kind of brought that forth in my businesses and opening businesses and things like that. So it kind of goes along with kind of sports have been in my life. So sports are very important to me, and they always have been for all those reasons. And I've got a daughter that's in 7th grade now and running cross country, and it's just great to see how that's been with her to be competing and competing on her own and competing. She gets to run on a varsity level, and it's just great to see what it does for young kids and their confidence and that sort of thing. So sports are a wonderful thing, and when you look at how the negative things of it that are coming about, and so much of it's parents, and they take the purity out of the actual sports, and it's too bad when I see that happen, and I see that at our schools, and you really, it's too bad. They take the important things out of sports, and there's just so much to learn from sports with communication and leadership and all those things.
So I have to agree with everything that everybody has said up to this point, but the one thing that was pointed out to me right away when I started was how calm I always seemed, and I think that I learned that on the field. So I played softball. You go up to bat, bases are loaded, 2 outs. Are you going to win or lose the game here? And you have to show that calmness on the outside, even though on the inside your heart is pumping and your adrenaline is going. And that I feel like that at work at a lot of times, but on the outside, I'm able to show like the composure and not show that I'm worked up or the adrenaline's pumping. I remember when I was newly out of radiation therapy school, we had an emergency patient on the weekend, and I was the only therapist on call, and this patient can't breathe, so we're trying to quick irradiate their chest so we can open up their airway to stop the tumor from growing. And just how I just remember myself like nearly shaking because I was just so much adrenaline was pumping through me, knowing that this patient was in so much pain, and it was really up to me to get this patient on the table and to be able to treat them so that they could breathe. So I think that's the one thing that I learned from sports is even though what you're feeling on the outside, you don't always have to show on the outside. Or what you're feeling on the inside, you don't always have to show on the outside. So.
The second question is, how can student athletes effectively discuss their athletic experiences in the internship and job search?
So one thing that I'm sure many of you know, what makes a great athlete versus just an okay athlete is the little things they do when they're playing the sport. They do those little things that maybe not everybody else is doing, and to me, that's what I look for in employees. Is there somebody that's picking up those little jobs that nobody else wants to do and just does them without being asked or told to do them? So that's one thing that I think if you are that type of personality to really talk about that when you're going for an interview, to say, I played softball and I would at the end of practice make sure that all the bats were picked up and I helped do X, Y, and Z, and to just show that you're willing to do those little things without being asked. And to me, that's what makes a great employee over a so-so employee.
Another thing I think is that the extra time it takes to be a college athlete. I mean, it's pretty easy to, well, I shouldn't say it's not easy going to college, but I mean, there's a lot of extra work that goes into being an athlete. There's more than just, going to practice 2-hour days. There's travel time. There's, football and basketball. You're watching films and things like that. So it's not just a 2-hour day. It ends up being 4, 5, 6, if you include weightlifting and running and things like that. So the dedication that it takes to be a college athlete, and in college athlete, it's a very small percentage of people that get to play college sports. I mean, there's very few that play high school sports, and then that gets lowered when you get to college is a very few, very small number, and then even smaller going to the next level. But the dedication that it takes to do that for all those years, plus to do well in school, I think is just something that really sticks out to employers, and things that we, people that are hiring or firing are looking at, is to see that out of kids is what their dedication is and what they're going to be able to do for you, and they'll be able to do because they were involved with teams and things like that.
One of the questions they're probably going to ask you when you go for an internship or a job interview is, how did you deal with conflict? Or describe a time in your life that you dealt with conflict. And whether you know it or not, you probably dealt with conflict a lot on your sports teams. When you were in high school, you were probably the top dog on your team. And then you came to college and you joined this team full of top dogs. Okay? So now you're just normal. Okay, so I'm guessing there was a lot of butting heads right away on that first week of practice where everybody came as the stud from their high school team and now has to figure out their new role in the team. And you all had a goal, and your goal was to go to playoffs, right? It wasn't, oh yeah, we're just here to make friends. No, I'm guessing when you get to college, the stakes are raised, okay? So you had a goal. So all those strangers that you were kind of in competition with, you had to pull it together and decide how you were going to work together as a team. So when they ask you that question, you can say, I did it. I pulled together with my teammates for a common goal. When we came in, nobody stood out. We were all awesome. And we had to figure out how to be awesome together instead of butting heads and competing with each other to instead go for the goal. So just make sure that you have an answer to the conflict question. But if you're all athletes, you probably have one without even knowing about it.
So as part of my job at Target, I interview undergraduate candidates. I've probably interviewed a couple dozen of them so far this year. In a behavioral-based interview, you're going to get asked, in the course of a half an hour, you're probably going to get asked, I don't know, maybe 4 or 6 questions. So as you're preparing for that interview, the advice I give everyone, and this is whether they're interviewing for a promotion at Target or a job outside, or they're preparing for an interview to go get their MBA, or any different type of interview. And it's no different for you guys as you're looking at internships and eventually your first-time positions. Think about all of the things that you've done, and what are the 4 or 5 different experiences that you've had that you're most proud of, or that are really telling about who you are. So the experiences that Will would talk about in an interview would be way different from what I've talked about because I'm not Will. But there's a lot of things that I would talk about in an interview that are unique to me. So as you're preparing, think about the 4 or 6 things that are personal and the best examples of who you are in a workplace scenario. Within those 4 to 6, I can tell you every Friday when I interview, I hear a lot of, we ask the question frequently, tell me about a time you had to work with a difficult person. So getting back to the conflict scenario. I can't tell you how many different times I get an example about a class project, which is totally fine, but it's not that interesting. I mean, truth be told. For you guys, think about the different ways that athletics can apply to the job specifically that you're applying for. It also will be different if you're applying for pharmacy school or if you want to come and join a retailer. Your answers or your experiences will probably be told in a slightly different way. So my advice to you, think about your 4 to 6 biggest experiences and know how you're going to speak to them before the questions are even asked. If you have a really good idea about what you're going to talk about, it doesn't matter so much exactly what the question is because you're going to know well enough that it can answer multiple questions. So do that. Also know a little bit about the job that you're applying for. Is it a team environment? Are you going to have to give speeches? Is it writing? What is it? And make sure that your examples that you're ready to talk about apply directly to that position. because we're looking for very specific things when we interview. So know that there's nothing wrong with having an example from your athletic career. But I do encourage you to also have other experiences to talk about too, because we're looking for, at Target specifically, we're looking for people who are good at athletics, but we're also good communicators, successful academically, potentially have some examples from internships as well. So don't rely solely on any one aspect of your background, and true, that also should be your sports career as well.
Yeah, James hit that right on the head. I was going to say, use athletic experience as a part of your arsenal in the interview. I know you get really nervous and you start kind of pigeonholing yourself into, oh yeah, the latest job I'm in, and you forget about all the experiences that you've had. Maybe you're a volunteer with Habitat for Humanity, or you're a president of the student council. So use all your experiences, and then kind of explain your role maybe on the team, where you started. Like she said, you started at the bottom and you kind of worked your way up as a first year, just trying to figure out where you are. By the time you're a senior, maybe you're the captain, things like that. And just try to use as specific of examples as you can. Being less general, try to make yourself more memorable. And also athletics, you've experienced disappointment, and don't be afraid to share maybe some of your weaknesses, but on top of that, showing how you've grown from that and what you've done to improve.
Yeah, that all sounds really good. Yeah, I mean, obviously I echo everything that they said. I actually am transitioning into an additional role, college unit director and a field director, so I'm doing a little bit more hiring and letting go individuals. So I don't have too much experience in hiring that much when I'm getting into that process. But going into what I remember when I first got this internship is, I really utilized my athletic experience. I mean, I remember the interview to this day. It's like, I am coachable, I am competitive. I mean, the industry that I'm in, I'm probably a pretty competitive industry. Competitive marketplace and things of that nature. So I'm competitive. I played on a sports team, so I had team building, teamwork, and so I mean, yeah, I sincerely believe that you guys have to leverage your guys' athletic experiences in the job search and let that shine. So.
Okay, our last question before we go to question and answers from the students is, what are employers looking for in future employees, and how can one's student athletic experience be helpful?
Well, I'll touch on one thing, because I'm sure everybody else has something else. So the one thing that I was thinking about on the way over here was work ethic. I mean, I sincerely believe that work ethic is a really big quality that a lot of employers are looking for, what we're looking for as employers. So, I mean, in athletics, it's hard to believe that you wouldn't be a hard worker if you didn't go to school and you were in athletics. So really display your work ethic, your hard work ethic, your drive, your determination, and you're motivated to really succeed in the workplace. So.
I'm solely responsible for hiring at my facility, so what I'm looking for in terms of resumes, because there's a lot of people looking for jobs. So when the resumes come in, I'm going to divide it out is this person qualified versus not qualified? And then after that, I kind of look for anything extracurricular. If it's just strictly work, a lot of times they get put to the bottom of the pile. So don't be afraid to put your athletic experience, your club experience on your resume. I also look for someone who'd be well-rounded. So do they do anything outside of work? I want someone who's had success in a group, so being able to see that they are able to work well with others. And it shows dedication that you're willing to do something outside of work and family, and it includes balance. And then, as Nicole said, someone who appears as if they're willing to go above and beyond. The structure of the resume to me, doesn't matter as much as what's on there. And if you can convey that you're a well-rounded person, you have ambition, you're going to get a call if you're qualified.
Well said, you guys. A couple of things that I'd add. We've talked a lot about collaboration, communication, conflict. All of those things are still very relevant. A couple of things we haven't talked about is, one, the ability to drive results and to produce results for your organization. And that could be in an internship. It could be scholastically. It also could be athletically. So think about those times where whether it was making a team, and that was the big goal you set and you accomplished it, or whether it was improving your time in the 100-meter dash, whatever it is. Think about those times where you set goals and you did what it took to achieve them, because ultimately that's going to be what work is like too. You're going to have results that you need to drive, you're going to have numbers you need to hit, or goals that you need to set for yourself or for other people, and no matter what it takes, you're going to have to find a way to achieve those. So demonstrating that ability in multiple facets of your background, I think, will be important. The second that I think is really applicable to athletics is passion. We want people who are really going to care about what they're doing. Not someone who's just going to come and kind of sit there and do their work and then go home, but people are going to be really excited about driving business and learning and making a difference with their team as well. So passion is a huge part of sports. It's a big part of the work world, and find ways to display that in your interview as well.
You guys are the people that I want to hire right now. You have the most flexible schedule right now. So what I want from you, if you want to coach right now, I want to know that you're responsible and that you're dedicated. And if you're part of a team, you're probably already responsible and dedicated. But just know, I started working at Cathedral hiring coaches who probably were my friends at St. Ben's and St. John's when I was 21. Okay, so yes, I went to the bar, and so did those people I wanted to hire. Okay, so if they were doing a keg stand in the corner, that's probably not who I wanted to coach the 7th grade baseball team. You just don't know who your future employer is going to be, okay? So make good decisions, okay? You don't know. Somebody up here could be your next boss, somebody that you ran into whose kids you babysat. You just don't know who your future employer is going to be, so make responsible decisions, okay? Act responsible. Because we're going to remember, okay? We're going to remember if you were not responsible is usually when we remember. The other thing I have advice for you, I guess, is in athletics, you learn to take direction, but you also learn to take initiative. So when you come into a new job, you don't know everything, okay? You have an awesome degree from St. Ben's and St. John's, but at the same time, you still have things to learn. So be very confident in everything that you learned in college, but at the same time, be humble enough to say, I still need to learn something, and I'm willing for you to teach me that too. So.
In my job as a pharmacist and in pharmacies is working together is the main thing for us, and your ability to do that with teammates and whatever else is going to be part of that. You're gonna have, and we've all talked about this. You're gonna have some people that you maybe don't get along with all that great, but you're gonna have to get through that. You've got to work through that, and your employer is gonna see that, and your employer is gonna be able to see that this person was an athlete. They're gonna be able to probably get through this. John Ghilardi was always he always said that Nike stole the term "just do it" away from him, because he always said it, and he said it, and all of a sudden it's on T-shirts, and it's a big. He should have, he should have, and what he means by that is that you can talk about it, you can whatever, just show it at work, just like you show it on the field. You just do it. Don't make excuses. Don't make anything. Just do your job. Go out and do it, and you're going to be successful at what you do.
All right, so I think they covered everything that I wanted to talk about regarding athletic experience. So just 2 pieces of advice I have for you that doesn't necessarily relate to your athletic experience. But when you send a resume in, please have somebody proofread it like 4 or 5 times, and that means 4 or 5 different people, because you would not imagine how many times I get resumes in that there's a misspelling, their statement doesn't make any sense at all, and I just throw that away immediately, because it's like, if you can't take the time to have somebody look at your resume and present yourself as a professional, I'm not even going to interview you. So that's one thing that happens to me a lot. And then the second thing, oh, now I lost it. Oh, I know. When you go into interviews, when you're answering questions, don't answer it the way you think that they want you to answer it. Answer it true to yourself, because if you are just saying what they want to hear, they're going to sense that, and they're going to sense that it's not really you speaking. So just make it real and make it yourself, and just talk about how wonderful your experience has been here at St. Ben's and St. John's, and just really play up everything you've done from academics up to athletics. So.
Don't post that on Facebook.
Typically, I don't really look at it that much unless they're starting to get higher up in the ranks. I mean, sometimes I just want to look to see what it looks like, but honestly, most people have it so locked down that if their profile picture is normal, it's like, oh, they're normal. I had one person, like, she had a picture, it was like she was like holding like a skull for her like head. I brought her in for an interview and she was really weird. So, but
So it wasn't just a clever picture?
No, it wasn't just a clever picture. But I personally don't look at it very much, but my company also will do background checks. And sometimes I feel like when you're talking with a person and you're in the room long enough, you can kind of gauge a little bit of their personality.
I don't look at Facebook because it's our company's policy that we don't base off of it, but I can tell you that's a big topic of conversation, and I would just suggest lock your Facebook down if you have anything on there that you wouldn't want your future employer to see.
I don't use Facebook. My wife does. But it is something that I have employees that do, and it is something that when I narrow down who I'm going to hire, it's the first thing when we've got my final 10 or whatever, we look on that, and you can really tell by what people, it's what their reaction to things and how they say things, and they're being true, and you can see some pretty creepy things about people that, their resume looks great, and they maybe sit and they answer all the questions like you asked, and you look and you see how they really are, and it's kind of scary. So, I mean, social medias are kind of a scary thing when you're putting everything about your personal life and everything about you, on for everybody to see. Be careful.
I'm not sure if Target looks at Facebook or not. To be honest with you, I'm not entirely sure, but I agree with what everyone said. They're gonna look for whatever information they can find about you, and so whatever you can do to present yourself in the best possible light is in your best interest. Just like when I come into work on a Monday, I will share a lot of details about my weekend, but not everything. Like, my team doesn't know everything I do. And so I think it's important to ensure that the less glamorous things about you don't get out there before you're ready to show them, and maybe if ever. So anything that you can control that's out there about you, is probably a good thing.
We use the rule, if you wouldn't post it with your mom or your grandma standing behind you, you probably shouldn't put it on the internet. We tell our coaches that, and we tell our athletes that. We also don't let our coaches be friends with their athletes. I know that's probably different in college, and it's also changed too. I know you're tweeting and probably other cool social media things I don't know about. But we also, it's a little different now. We used to say that coaches should never have an athlete's phone number on their phone, and you've all seen the news and you've all read inappropriate things that coaches might text their players. But we also know that times are changing, so we do allow coaches to have their athletes' numbers to say, practice is at 4 o'clock. But we also make the rule that you have to you have to text the whole team. You just don't text one person. It's a team thing, so you don't get called out on that you sent an inappropriate text. But I think our IT department's the one that told me, even though your Facebook is like private, it's not really private. There's secret ways that people who are smart in IT know how to get into there. So again, if you wouldn't post something, pictures, or if your friends tag you in pictures, and you think that your future employer might be looking at it, you might want to untag yourself or take it off, because you just never know who's going to look at it. And it's probably not that important that that picture or that post is on the internet. It's probably not that so exciting in your life that you can't take that off.
You know, the one other thing I'd add is that, you know, despite the fact there's been a lot of conversation about, well, don't do this, don't do that, don't show anything. At the same point, if there are things that you're doing that are truly outstanding and that you do want your future employers to see it, if you're volunteering or if you accomplished a goal or whatever it is, that might be an opportunity for you to, you know, change your Facebook page a little bit to showcase what's great about you, if they are going to look. And I'm not sure, do you guys use LinkedIn, or do students use LinkedIn at all? That's another great tool to put your positive, your resume or information about you that people can find. That's a good tool to use as well.
I think I didn't have an internship specifically, but I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do with my biology major. I thought about doing something with the DNR, but I tried to do things with experiences related to biology. So in the summer, I worked at mosquito control. In the school year, I worked in the athletic training room. But I would think the more experience you could have, it can't hurt you.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think the more experiences you have, the better chances you have of networking. Even if that's not the exact position you want to go into, you may know somebody there who knows somebody in a different company who is where you really want to work. So networking is a great opportunity.
Get experience. That's the first piece of advice, is go out and get internships. Ideally, if it can be close to the line of work that you're interested in, it's a great way to try it out without committing to it. For example, you know, my wife went to school to be a teacher, and it wasn't until she did student teaching that she realized she didn't really like teaching that much. So it would have been really nice if she could have student taught earlier than she did. So if there is a line of work, say you want to be in accounting, go get an accounting internship and see if you like it. I think it's highly common and highly likely that you're going to change jobs a lot. The more that you can do to figure out exactly where you want to set your path as your first full-time job, I think, would behoove you as you start your career.
Yeah, I mean, when I was a sophomore in college, I mean, I don't know if I declared a major at that point, so I didn't even know what I was going to do coming out of college. I mean, I think I knew that it was going to be an econ major maybe, but I just thought I'd give it a shot and try an internship with Northwestern Mutual, and turns out that I liked it enough to go back again and networked and met a lot of fantastic people. And so you never know what's going to happen, right? So I'm really grateful for taking that internship, because I don't think I'd be where I'm at today, owning my own business and really sitting here today. We're right out of college, so.
One thing I think that this university or these universities are great with is the alumni that we've got. are amazing, and they do wonders. I mean, you get contacts, and we all enjoy being contacted by kids that are in school. Every one of us does, and we're honored that you would do that. But you can go to your career counselor here, and they'll give you contacts, and use it because they're out there. And you know, you can be as smart as you want. It's not what you know. It's really who you know, and unfortunately, but you know people because you went to this university. They'll consider you as somebody you know. You know, even though you've never met them, you've got something in common with them. And it'll go from that, and then all of a sudden it's an MIAC thing. You know, even if it's a St. Thomas kid or Carleton or something like that. Oh, you went to St. Ben's. Oh, we played football against you, or basketball, or whatever it is. I mean, it becomes that sort of camaraderie, and it's a small group, but it's a small group that very successful. Our colleges in this conference are all there's a lot of very successful people, and you really got to utilize our alumni a lot.
Really quickly, Career Services has a database called the Kane Files that has pretty much every alum that's ever graduated from St. Ben's and St. John's. It has most of their contact information, and it's a really great way for students to connect with people that are in particular businesses, in particular careers, what they did in college for that matter. If you're a management major and you're not sure you want to continue with that, it's really great to connect with those people that did continue. So Career Services here in the ASB and in Mary Hall at St. John's has access to that. That's the only place that you can access it on campus, but it is one of the best ways to get any type of experience during and after graduation, during college and after graduation.
And then I'm part of the St. Ben's Alumni Board as well, and we have a program that after you graduate, we're trying to match mentors and mentees. So if there's something you're really interested in, you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, or maybe you want to figure out how to do more family balance, things like that, you can get in contact with us and we can match you up. Or maybe you're 15 years down the road, you're really, really successful, and you feel like you have something to offer back to the college. You could be a mentor for someone else who might want to follow the same path as you.
Well, first thing, Bennies and Johnnies love to hire other Bennies and Johnnies. We know that we all made a sacrifice, probably more financially than anything else, and you could have gone anywhere for a degree, but you chose to go to St. Ben's and St. John's, and that has a high price tag on it. So we know that you made a commitment to your education, and we know that you're dedicated to your education. So we like to hire you, and we're from here, so we know that they produce excellent results. The other thing I was going to say was,
We're getting old.
it was not the keg stand. Still don't do that. That didn't change. I'll come back to it. I'll grab the mic in a second.
I think it depends on what you want to use your network for, I think is part of the advice that I give. So if you're interested in getting a job at United Health Group, for example, who do you know that has any connection to United Health Group? It could be a recent alum, it could be a family friend, it could be anyone that you know. I think in general terms, it's kind of scary to approach people, especially if you've lost contact with them or if your contact was a friend of a family or whatever. Utilize whatever you got. So try and connect the person to what you want to use them for. It's great if you're looking at a specific company and you know someone who went there. That's a great way to start a kind of a networking relationship.
I just had one of our physicians leave a voice message on my phone today and said, hey, I just wanted to give you a heads up that you might get a random call from somebody because I gave them your name because they were interested in becoming a radiation therapist because her boyfriend's grandpa was being treated by me. So just to give you a heads up. And that was a voicemail I got today. So I mean, in that situation, this physician is treating the grandpa of her boyfriend, and that's how she is getting in contact with me. So, I mean, there's so many ways that you're unaware of, but just tell people what you're interested in. You may find somebody that really knows something about that or knows somebody who will know something about that. And job shadowing is always a great opportunity too. I mean, you don't have to commit yourself to an internship, but if you have a couple of afternoons out of the week that you're available to just go and shadow somebody in the line of work that you're looking for, to me, that shows commitment, that you're there every day, you're asking good questions, you're being responsible about it. So, I mean, that's another great way.
Nicole just said something really important, but ask questions. I had 4 interns last year, and 2 of them were really good and 2 of them were terrible. And the 2 really good ones asked a lot of questions. And so I'm like, you want to be an activities director. The other 2 were just there to get their 75 hours or whatever they needed for their internship. Even if it's a line of work that you don't want to go in, ask questions because it's going to help you somewhere down the line. And maybe it's making a connection, but maybe it's making them be interested and excited that you're their intern, so now they're going to write you an excellent letter of recommendation for a future job. So ask questions, okay? Just don't show up and be a warm body because we can get somebody else to come and do that. But be excited and be interested in an internship or a job shadow that you have the opportunity to do.
Yeah, I think you go out there and do it as soon as possible. Get as much experience as you can right out of the gates, because the more experience you get, like everybody's saying, the better off you're going to be down the road. And maybe it's an internship as a sophomore. You did not like that, so you probably won't go in that avenue with the next internships. You really get to know yourself, and I think it's really important to get different experiences. Obviously, I did not. I was at the same internship, but I liked it. I loved it, and I still love it. So, but to answer your question, it's never too early to start. So I would definitely start.
So I know for a fact that the letter of recommendation that one of my softball coaches gave me was the only reason that I got into radiation therapy school.
Julie Dayak's reference for me was a big one that got me into where I am. But I used Julie, and then I used another summer job that I had.
I think at this level, you know, the high school coaches writing letters, I don't think that does much, you know, getting into college. But I think college coaches, you know, it's just such a small percentage, again, of people that are involved that, you know, this person's seen you at your best and can really answer a lot of those questions that people want to see.
Yeah, I mean, that was the one thing I was going to say, actually, was your coaches are the ones that probably spend more time than your teachers do. I mean, I had an advisor that spent maybe an hour a week with me, but my coach, I was with my coach, my hockey coach, for 3 hours a day. He knew me, knew everything about me. And so I just think it's more personable, too, as far as getting a letter recommendation from your coach. So.
And it's about 8 o'clock, so we're going to wrap things up. But we'd like to thank our wonderful panel members for coming out tonight. And if you guys could just take this opportunity now to fill out those evaluation forms, we would really, really appreciate it. If you would like to talk to any of our panel members one-on-one, please feel free. As well as there's refreshments in the back, so grab one on your way out. Thanks for coming.